Year 2. This is Friday's guided reading lesson, and we're carrying on with our work on poetry. And today we are looking at one of my favourite poems, which is called The Jabberwocky. Now, as ever, if you want to go and read this poem independently, it's attached to the homework. Before you do, though, I will say this poem is full of nonsense words, words that don't actually mean anything, that the poet has just made up. So if you're not sure what a word means, don't worry. It might not mean anything. It might be a nonsense word, but you can always try and figure out what the poet meant by thinking about what does the word sound like, what does it remind you of, and look at the context. So where is it in a sentence? What's happening? So have a go at reading it yourself. I'm going to read it through here on the video, and then we'll talk about the questions. So this is called Jabberwocky, and it's by Lewis Carroll, who you might know as the author of Alice in Wonderland. So this is a poem he wrote called The Jabberwocky, which we're going to have a look at now. As I said, it's full of nonsense words, words that don't actually mean anything, that Lewis Carroll made up. So if you hear a word and you think, I don't know what it means, don't worry. Let's have a read together. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought, so rested by the tumtum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tolgy wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, callooh, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Now, you might be thinking, lots of that poem did not make sense, and you're absolutely right. There's lots of words here that the poet made up, but that's okay. We can use our reading skills to figure out what's happening. So we've got first, 'twas brillig. Now, brillig isn't a word, but have a think about it. Sounds a bit like brilliant, doesn't it? Maybe it was a bright day. It was a sunny day. The slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. Well, I don't know what that means, gyre and gimble. Maybe that's them moving around. We don't know. All mimsy were the borogoves. Oh, well, maybe these are the borogoves, these trees in the background we can see in the illustration. It doesn't really matter. Don't worry about it. Now, this poem does actually tell a story about someone who goes off to fight a monster called the Jabberwock or the Jabberwocky. And in this verse here, the second verse, someone is telling the hero, beware of the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. And there's a couple of other monsters he has to be worried about as well. The Jubjub bird and the Bandersnatch. And you can tell these are the names of, in this case, monsters or animals or creatures, because they've got capital letters. So that's a bit of a clue that they are names. Then it tells us a bit of a story about how he found and he fought the Jabberwocky. So he takes his sword, his vorpal sword, and stands by a tree for a little while and thinks, and here comes the Jabberwock with eyes of flame, and it comes whiffling through the wood and burbled as it came. And again, these words don't necessarily mean anything, but it might give you a bit of a picture in your mind. And then this verse here, 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. That's explaining how the fight went. So the hero has got this sword called the vorpal blade, and he's fighting the Jabberwocky with it. He wins, he left it dead, and with its head, he went galumphing back. So he cuts off its head with the vorpal blade and goes back. And whoever sent him off is very happy. You can see, oh, frabjous day, callooh, callay. Again, these are nonsense words, but they sound happy, don't they? And then the last verse is just the same as the first verse. We're just talking about the scene again. So that is the Jabberwocky. As always, we've got some questions to answer. Now, don't worry. As I said, the first question asks you about those nonsense words. This poem is full of nonsense words. Find and copy 3 of them. Should be nice and easy. Just find some words where you don't know what they mean. There's lots of them. And then for number 2, a bit of retrieval. Tick the monsters that are in this poem. We've got the Bandersnatch, the Griffin, the Mock Turtle, and the Jubjub Bird. 2 of those are in this poem, and 2 of them are not. Number 3, what is the hero's sword called? And number 4, what noise does it make? What noise does that sword make? So you've got to do a bit of retrieval. If you have a look in the 5th verse for some of the answers there, in the 5th verse. And then how many verses are in this poem? So once again, look at the poem, look at how it is set out. Think to yourself, well, where are the gaps? How many verses are there? And then we've got another ticking one. What sorts of words do you think galumphing might be? Now, again, this is a nonsense word. It doesn't actually mean anything. But is it a verb? Is it a doing word? Is it something someone does? Is it a noun? Is it the name of something? Is it a conjunction? Or is it an adjective that describes something? I'm going to read you it. It says, he, the hero of the poem, he went galumphing back. So is it a doing word? Is it a name? Is it a describing word? Or is it a conjunction? It's up to you to say what you think. For number 7, what question would you like to ask the poet? So again, this is quite an old poem. So sadly, the poet Lewis Carroll is long dead. But this poem makes me think of some questions I would like to ask him. So have a think of a question you would like to ask Lewis Carroll, the poet, and make sure you include a question mark at the end. And then the extra challenge says, using the clues in the poem and your imagination, try drawing the Jabberwocky. So the Jabberwocky is this made-up monster. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know anything about it, really. There are a few clues in the poem. We know it's got eyes of flame. We know it's got jaws that bite and claws that catch. We know it's got a head because it gets cut off. And that's about all we know. So to have a go at drawing a monster that could be the Jabberwocky. And the nice thing about this is because we don't know what it looks like, you can't go wrong. So enjoy that. Right, that's the end of guided reading. As always, send your learning please to us on eSchools, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.